Hi everyone, welcome to today's video. So I wanted to make a video just flipping through this book that I have been eyeing for a very long time now actually. So before I jump right in, then this is the Watercolor with Me in the Forest watercolor book by Dana Fox. Just a little backstory of this book. For maybe the past year or so, I've always seen it at Hobby Lobby. And I just thought that it looked so beautiful and very adorable, and I've been really wanting to get my hands on it, but I just never bit the bullet to actually get it until very recently, just like last week when I went to Hobby Lobby and did a little bit of shopping. Then I decided that I would go ahead and finally pick this up for myself. It looks like it's also available on Amazon, at Target, and Walmart as well. It's actually a little bit cheaper if you purchase it from one of those. Right now, then it looks like it's for about $17 on all three of those sites, but at Hobby Lobby then I purchased this for $25, so not a bad price by any means, especially because it does have watercolor paper, which I assume would be relatively good quality. So when I did a quick Google search of Dana Fox, then it looks like she has a couple of other watercolor books as well, like an ocean one for instance, if that is more of your style of painting and drawing perhaps. But this one was the only one that I saw in store, so I really wanted to go ahead and just check this one out. But before I open it up, then I'll just show you guys the outside of it. So this is just the binding, and then on the back side it just has some reviews about the book and the author or artist, and then just a little description of it here. So if you want to go ahead and just pause the video and then just read this if you'd like, then go right ahead, but I will go ahead and just move right along to opening this thing up. So it looks like this was published back in 2018, so I'm very curious to know, have any of you already purchased this book? What do you guys think of it if you've already been painting in it? Have you seen this book before and have you been wanting to pick it up? Let me know down below. So on this page here, then it kind of just has a little bit more about like the copyright information and when it was published. And then on this side here, then it just has like a table of contents. So it does have different chapters of different types of projects that you can do. So it looks like it's divided up into 4 different categories of projects. So the first one is wet on dry, and then it just lists several different projects that you can experiment with for the wet on dry technique. Next would be the wet on wet technique, and then just again another list of projects that you can do to practice that technique. The next one would be painting fur, and then the last one would be ink and wash, and then finally just some information about the author. So I don't really know any of the details about this watercolor paper. It does feel pretty thick, and it does have a little bit of texture on it. So my assumption would probably be that this is some sort of cold press paper, just due to the texture on it. So for this page on the left hand side, then it just has a master color chart, and then it just has a list of watercolors that she recommends for this book. It also has a link that you can go to take a look at what supplies that the author or the artist prefers to use, like brushes, watercolor paints, watercolor paper, etc. And I believe it also had like some of her other books on there as well. I believe when I took a look at her supplies, then she uses Winsor & Newton watercolor paints. But as long as you're able to find colors or possibly even mix colors to get a similar shade to these, then that's all that really matters. On the right hand side here, then we just have an introduction to the book. So before you dive into the actual projects themselves, then it looks like there's a page that includes just a little bit more information about the technique before you start, and then just a little practice page here as well. So here's the first project. It is for an acorn, and then as you can see on the left hand side, then there's just a very light sketch that looks like it was drawn with pencil just to kind of give you some sort of outline when painting. It lists the colors here that you'll be using, as well as the supplies, and then just the steps on how to achieve this look. Again, with the colors, the supplies, and then the steps. So I'll go ahead and just continue flipping through these quickly, since now we understand what the layout is. But at this point then, I have not started any of the projects yet, just because I was waiting to film this video to share with you guys before I did anything. So this is actually my first time flipping through all of the projects. When I first got the book, then I kind of just read through the beginning, like the introduction pages and whatnot. But at this point then, we are just flipping through the book together. Alright, so here is the next technique. Similar to the wet on dry technique in the beginning, then it just has a little bit more information about this technique of wet on wet, and then just a space to the left to actually try it out for yourself before you dive into the projects. And then it just goes right into more projects that you will try. But with these, then you will attempt the wet on wet technique. So I think that this book is really good for not only beginners who want to get a little bit more experience with watercolors, but I think it's also just a great book to have for seasoned watercolor artists or painters. Just something with a little bit more structure if you are struggling with some sort of artist block and you don't really have a direction on where you want to go with your paintings. Maybe trying something like this could help you try something new, or it can help inspire you with some new paintings, or possibly even try techniques that you haven't tried before. So in terms of my experience with watercolors, then I've never actually taken like a watercolor class. I've never properly learned how to watercolor. It's just something that I played with over the years and just kind of developed my own style with. I would watch watercolor videos here and there just about like the different techniques, very basic fundamental techniques when it comes to watercolors, but nothing too in-depth. Even though I watercolor pretty often, then I don't consider myself to be very skilled at watercolors by any means. So I definitely wanted to get my hands on this book just so that I can learn some new techniques and paint things that I typically don't paint. The thing that I like about this book so far is that there are a lot of animals and wildlife, some architecture, which I don't consider myself to be strong at, so I think that this would be a very good way for me to just develop my skills and practice more watercolor techniques. Here is the third technique, so it'll be painting fur. This is something that I'm really looking forward to just because I find that painting and drawing animals in general tends to be something that I'm a little nervous to tackle just because of the fur. So I think this section will be extremely helpful for me and definitely take me out of my comfort zone. So here are the projects. I also just really love the art style that this artist has. Not too realistic, but also not too cartoony either. It's just a very delicate and rustic style, and I think it'll be perfect for this upcoming autumn season. Alright, so here is the final technique. it'll be ink and wash. So this is where you would start incorporating some sort of fine liner, such as like a Sakura Pigma Micron or a Tombow Fudenosuke pen, something that's preferably waterproof, I believe. So I'm really looking forward to this section as well. I really love the combination of using paints and fine liners to add more definition and details. Just because I've always considered myself to be a stronger drawer rather than a painter. I think if I had to choose just one medium to use for the rest of my life, it would probably just be like a fine liner, just because I would be able to get the most definition and details. So I'm really glad that she incorporated a section for watercolors and pens. I think that that will be very fun. And just for my initial impressions, I don't feel like these projects are too difficult either. I definitely think it'll take some practice, but I don't feel like they're too difficult for a beginner. And I also don't think that they'll be boring for someone who has more experience with watercolors either. I think that it is a very nice balance of challenges and simplicity. Alright, so we've reached the end. Here then it looks like she has some of her own brushes that you can purchase if you'd like to get this along with her brushes to work on this book, and then just a little bit more information about the artist. So my initial impressions on the projects included in this book is that I think that it's a very good blend of projects that will challenge your technique and help you learn and grow out of your comfort zone, but I also don't think that it's too daunting for a beginner. I think that it's a very good balance of beginner and more intermediate and advanced watercoloring skills. I think that it's a very generous amount of projects to work on as well. I don't expect to be able to finish this book in a very short amount of time, but I also don't think that it'll take forever to finish it either. The quality of the book seems very nice. I think that the pages themselves, they do feel thick and they feel like they should be able to hold water well, but I will confirm this later once I actually do put watercolor paints on the paper to see how much warping there is and to see how much paint and water the pages can actually sustain. I think for the price, this is a very great book to have. Again, if you want to learn watercolors or if you want something just with more direction to structure your watercolor painting, then I think that this is a really good book to follow. So that leads me into this next section of the video. I basically just want to turn it back to you guys. Something that I want to do with this book is just turn it into a series here on my channel. So I'm curious to know what your preference is as far as how you would like to see me work through this book. Would you prefer in each video that I just do one prompt at a time and just work my way in order through the book? Or would you like me to start off with like the wet on dry technique and then the next video move on to the wet on wet technique? The following video would be a painting fur prompt, and then the one after that would be the ink and wash. Or would you like me to just do like one of each of the 4 techniques in one whole video? So I'm very open to any of your suggestions. If you have any other ideas aside from the 3 that I listed, then please go ahead and let me know. I would love to hear what you guys would prefer moving forward with this video series, just because I love hearing from you guys and I do want to create content that you guys would enjoy and would be happy to watch. So go ahead and let me know. I'm really looking forward to starting this series for you guys, and if you guys would like to pick this book up yourselves, or if you guys already have this book, if you guys want to follow along while I do this series on my channel, then that would be very lovely. Let me know if you plan on doing that. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!